Also, I should point out from General McMaster, who was outlining what we're going to see from President Trump next week in terms of his overseas trip. But, you know, Sean Spicer had to field all those questions about the ongoing controversy surrounding our president's decision to fire FBI Director James Comey. I am Trish Regan. Welcome, everyone, to the Intelligence Report. The left is certainly caught up in this story, all the drama surrounding Comey's firing. But, you know, you got to wonder, where's the outrage over the fact that the FBI was leaking all this information with these conflicting allegations and these conflicting investigations? I mean, after all, isn't that why Comey was asked to resign in the first place? Joining me with their thoughts on today's activities, we have radio host Buck Sexton, a former CIA officer. We have Republican strategist Evan Siegfried, and we have K Street Media co-founder and former DNC official Pablo Manriquez. Good to have all you here. Buck, I'm going to start with you. You know, okay, a couple things going on today. Trump out there effectively warning James Comey, perhaps preemptively, and the world that there may be tapes of their conversations. He also came out and said that maybe these press briefings don't need to happen. So you can imagine there's a lot of people worked up on the left right now about some of this rhetoric. Let's break it down. Start, if you would, with this idea that maybe there was some kind of taping of the conversation with James Comey. What is he trying to suggest?
Well, the president's approach, certainly to the media and to anybody that would enable the Russia-Trump collusion narrative in the media, is that he's in the middle of a political street fight. And so that's, I think, how he views this from a 30,000-foot level, and that means that he takes some unorthodox approaches sometimes. Saying that he may have tapes of a discussion with the FBI director is certainly unusual. It seems to be preparing the ground for what he would believe are leaks that will come as a result of the New York Times report saying that Comey sat down with Trump. There's some dispute as to what was actually said there. I think the president is trying to get ahead of his critics on this. And given the reporting after the Comey firing for 24 hours, given how much false or fake news there was, undoubtedly as a result of a lot of reporters who wanted to run with a certain narrative, I think the president just decided the gloves come off, and I'm going to take this approach. It's not the one that I would take, but I'm not the president, so who cares what I think?
That's interesting that you mentioned something important, Evan. We heard Buck say street fight, and, you know, let's not forget, he is a bit of a street fighter kid from Queens. I mean, there is that element to his personality. And, hey, if you're him, you're thinking, this has gotten me pretty far thus far, so you continue that, yet, you know, the whole world's watching saying, but wait a second, this isn't quite presidential enough.
This isn't presidential in the way he should have been quiet as soon as Tuesday night happened and said no further comments. This is what happened, and that's it. But he's actually been changing the explanation several different times between Tuesday night and today. First, it was because Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein put out this, the memo. And then it was, well, I always wanted to get rid of him. Well, I wanted the Russia investigation to come to a stop, was what he said in the Lester Holt interview. I'm paraphrasing. And now this morning with the leaks thing, or about FBI Director Comey, that is a way that he's also trying to get the far left base worked up even more and frothing at the mouth.
But why do you want the far left base
Because they are so
worked up?
unreasonable, embracing such ridiculous Russia conspiracy theories that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are in cahoots on everything. That if you put out these extremists as the face of the main opposition to you, there are less people who are likely to go to the crazy person who's saying that.
It's like this inverted logic,
apparently, I guess.
Pablo, let me go over to you, because I think it's pretty much been decided at this point that, you know what, Russia didn't break into the voting systems, the Diebold voting systems, and somehow manipulate the election this way or that. The reality is, even if, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, even if Russia desperately wanted Hillary Clinton to lose and desperately wanted Donald Trump to win, you know, the Russians weren't preventing her from going out, you know, to Ohio and going to Pennsylvania and going to these states where she needed to communicate with voters. If you ask me, I think the Russians only could have affected things at the margin.
Right. I mean, I think that, you know, obviously President Trump said last night in his interview that no one wants for this Russian, you know, investigation to be completed thoroughly and to the satisfaction of everyone more than he does, so that he can get it, you know, off his plate and move forward with the agenda that he envisions for the American people. But let's face it, he could have saved himself, his team, and the American people a heck of a headache today if he had just had a simple communications briefing before rolling out this firing. Obviously, it is the president's prerogative to fire the FBI director if he sees that that's the correct path to take. The FBI director serves at the pleasure of the president. But as it stands right now, we have people from throughout the administration and his surrogacy network who are all saying different things. People from the intelligence community are contradicting what the White House is saying.
Okay, so you know what this tells us? Perhaps he does not have faith in his communications team. Buck, I mean, maybe he's throwing his hands up and saying, you know, with Melissa McCarthy playing Sean Spicer on Saturday Night Live, I don't necessarily want to deal with Spicer. Or maybe he's saying he's off at his Naval Reserve thing. You know, maybe that's the problem.
Melissa McCarthy's going around New York City in the podium. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh,
but
I've seen it.
Oh, yes, this is making the rounds right now. So everyone's gearing up for what will happen. You've got the podium, the hiding in the bushes that he was not actually hiding in, I should note. But I do think that there is a sense that the communication strategy needs some ironing out, and that may mean that there are changes in the very near future for the White House communications team. Given what's happened this week, look, even if it is the president's fault that there wasn't a straightforward, cohesive, completely accurate on all the points narrative about why he fired Comey, it's the president's prerogative to fire anybody on his team to make sure that there's someone in place that can hold it all together.
You got to manage up to a certain extent, too. If you're the communications director, and, you know, no offense against Sean. I like Sean. He's been on the show many times. But you got to get your arms around what's going on here, and you got to sit him down and say, okay, where are we on this? And here's our talking points. Here's what we're feeding to the team of surrogates that's out there. Here's what you're saying. And if anything changes, let me know. But, I mean, Evan, I don't know if any of that's getting done. We've looked at this communications team, and we're occasionally, as, by the way, communications specialists ourselves, scratching our heads.
In defense of Sean Spicer on Tuesday night, he was only given a heads up an hour before this, and that didn't allow the White House to prepare a long-term communication strategy. They could have had surrogates out on all the cable news networks defending the president's actions, and because they didn't know, they weren't able to.
Instead, they had him hovering by the bushes. He wasn't in the bushes.
It's still a Veep storyline, but he wasn't in, but out. But in terms of Sean Spicer as press secretary, if you look at him and everything he's said, he's made several gaffes that have been embarrassments to the administration and been headaches and taken the focus off of the achievements and accomplishments. So you look at that, and then Sarah Huckabee Sanders with her great debut on Friday and her other briefings
very
this
good.
week.
Very straightforward.
Is far better at this than Sean Spicer.